Hello everyone, and welcome to the Truffle Pig Mini Museum, and today we are looking at all my Soviet Union kopecks, and talking about the country, states, history, and coins. Real quick, most of the stuff is very political, so I will be staying very unbiased for both parties, okay? What was the Soviet Union? The Soviet Union was a country in the 1900s. It consisted of 15 states, including Russia, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Belarus, Ukraine, Moldova, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. The Soviet Union became a country after the Tsarist Empire fell during the Communist Revolution. The main point of the Union is that it's communist. But what is communism? Communism is a flawed system that at its core has great values. The system is simply no one is more important than the other, mostly focusing on the working class over the rich. In fact, there was no such thing as rich. There was no real money. But in order to understand this, we must go even simpler. Communism arises from the medieval idea of communes, where all the materials would be combined and distributed as needed. But who controls the whole economy? Well, in communism, it fell upon the dictator. What might one do if there's not enough to go around? And they get to choose who gets what? Well, they might take more than their share. But this arises the question, what was their money used for then? What were kopecks used for? The Union was not like a commune. Instead, all the workers were granted a wage. So, they would have to pay for things like bread or bus tickets. However, the government would sell this, and the vendors made no money. Kopecks were worth roughly 1.7 cents. How did the Soviet Union come to be? The Soviet Union formed in 1922 under the lead of Vladimir Lenin, who also led the communist uprising against the Tsar regime, and won the Red Revolution. The most well-known leader was Joseph Stalin. He was part of the Axis during World War II, then the Allies, when the H-mustache man betrayed him, invading the Union. Despite Stalin's wrongdoings, and trust me, there were, he is often credited alongside the army of the USA as saving Europe. Hitler lost a lot of troops and battles invading Russia. Stalin died very interestingly, and it says a lot about his leadership. The year was 1953, and Stalin is working late. He had already developed heart and digestive issues. At that point in time, in the night, he falls over due to heart failure. His staff were worried, but if they checked on him and disturbed him, they would be executed. So they didn't, and he was only discovered in the morning by his maid. He quickly dies later. After the death of Stalin, the Cold War begins. The Cold War was not an actual war because Russian and American soldiers never engaged in combat directly. The start was pretty much being the Korean War, which Stalin was alive for, at least at the beginning. The war was between the Communist North and the South, which was capitalist. The North was led by dictator Kim Il-sung, and the South were led by also a dictator, Syngman Rhee. The two countries fought, being backed by both nations. The war has technically never ended, and has just been in a ceasefire agreement since 1953. In 1957, the Soviets launched a space program, with the first satellite, Sputnik. In 1961, the Berlin Wall is built, severing East and West Germany. If you want to know more on that, go watch my short on that coin from East Germany. Then, the Cuban Missile Crisis begins a mere year later, when nuclear tensions were highest. The crisis ends up having the Russians pull their nukes out of Cuba, and the US pull their nukes out of Turkey. Then comes the Vietnam War in the late 60s to early 70s. Go watch my short on the Life magazine for more on the war. But it was essentially the same as the Korean War, except the North won, taking all of Vietnam. Almost 10 years later, Gorbachev takes power, and he leads the Union into the Golden Age. The Golden Age is the unstalinization of the Union, and He undoes most of the unfree laws that was put in place almost 50 years ago. He, as in Gorbachev. The fact that the golden age of the Union is its end says a lot about communism. In 1989, the Berlin Wall falls, uniting Germany and weakening the Union. Then, a mere 1 year later, the Union collapses, starting with Lithuania, then Estonia and Latvia. Following the Baltic area is Armenia, though complicated, then Georgia, then follows Moldova, Azerbaijan, Ukraine, and Belarus, then Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan, then surprisingly Russia, and after shortly Kazakhstan. Now we go to the actual coins. These coins are actually quite neat. The coins are called kopecks, and many modern countries, including Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia, still use the kopeck. The bill is called a ruble, but I don't have any rubles. The USSR coins I've got are from the 60s to 90s, but I've been trying to get my hands on some from Stalin's time. Look at the size difference between the one from 64 to 91. The Soviet Union coins all featured the hammer sickle over top, the earth with a star above it, and a wreath surrounding all of it. Why communism failed. Communism, or true communism, really exists only in North Korea now. Even countries that call themselves communist, like Communist China, are not true communist. But both being too liberal and too conservative ruins a country. The USSR was too liberal, and the Nazi Germany was too conservative. Both prioritized who they viewed as strong or worthy. In the USSR, it was people who couldn't work or hold a strong family. A game that really gets this right is Papers, Please. I love it. Please go play it. It's absolutely fantastic. In Nazi Germany, it was Jews, homosexuals, communists, Polish people, political enemies, and disabled people. Yes, the Nazis were completely crazy. I'm just saying, stay impartial. Everybody knows this, but I don't want to start a political debate. This video was a joy to make, but one last time, no debates. Anyway, if you guys have any less political questions or comments, go ahead and comment. See you guys in the next one. Go watch my shorts, or like the other video, whatever. Bye.